Local Time Check brought to you by Northwest Seafood, where freshness is guaranteed. Good morning, my friends, and welcome. Big hour, hour number 3. A lot of folks have been looking forward to this. I know I have. Special guest in the studio, County Commissioner of Alachua County, Lee Pinkeson is here. Morning, Lee.
Good morning.
And from the Alachua County School Board, Tina Pinkeson, the former Tina Turner, is here. And, yep, she cut her hair since the whole school board election thing. So it's just Tina Pinkeson now. Is that what we go by?
That's right.
Is that working?
That's right.
All right. All right, so important stuff coming our way as voters. A week from yesterday actually is the deadline, although early voting is taking place right now. The primaries for the Democrats and Republicans in the state of Florida, but one of the most important issues on that is a ballot initiative. It's Amendment 1, and this is going to reduce property taxes. This is going to give people portability so that they can take the Save Our Home savings with them. I think that some of the advantages to this program is going to allow empty nesters who have large houses to sell their house without fear of selling their house, moving to a much smaller house, and end up paying more in property taxes. They can actually take their percentage of savings with them. So one of the questions that I have for Lee is, look, can you deny that this portability aspect is not a good thing?
There are definitely some positive things about the tax initiative, the portability aspect, as well as the cap and the $25,000 tangible tax reduction. So those portions of it are good, but well, no but.
Let me ask you a couple of questions that have come up on the air, if it's okay, Lee. These are things that there's misconceptions and confusion on the part of voters and listeners, and sometimes the way things are written is a little confusing. Let's get a couple things out of the way. First of all, if you use the portability part of this and you go from one home to another one, your 3% cap is still in effect. In other words, you still have Save Our Homes. It's
Right.
not going to be taken away from you.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
You see, because I know there were several plans that they were talking about and laying out initially before they had settled on this one, and one of them put that cap in jeopardy. But no matter whether people vote yes or no, 3% Save Our Homes still there.
It's still there, and during the legislative session in the spring, portability was one of the hot topics that were being bandied around, and it came back into fruition later. But the Senate asked for a legal opinion on whether they thought portability was legal, and their report that they commissioned came back and they said that it's probably not legal.
So this is similar to when there was a time there, you were moving to Florida, they said, oh, you're registering a car from out of state in Florida, we're going to hammer you with this impact fee, and then they turned that around and said, wait, that's not that's not constitutional, you're putting an unfair burden on new residents. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and so we could be doing all this voting, it could possibly pass, and then they could turn around and say, you know what, we can't do that because a new person coming into town is going to be paying much more of a property tax than somebody else who's moving, but because they're moving from one owned home, homesteaded in Florida, to another one, they're going to pay a lot less, and they'll say, what, that's unfair, or that's...
The interstate commerce clause of the Constitution.
Interstate commerce clause of the Constitution, okay.
And another thing was, in that same opinion, they said if portability is not legal, it might also jeopardize the Save Our Homes portion of the 3% every year as well. So at that time, the Senate felt like it wasn't in their best interest to go ahead and proceed with portability.
Okay, homestead exemption goes from $25,000 to $50,000. The caveat there is you'll get a discount on your ad valorem taxes, but you won't get a discount off the school portion of the taxes. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, so Tina, one of the things that people are talking about when they say vote no on this Amendment 1 is they say the schools are going to suffer financially as a result. How do the schools suffer if this portion of it's protected from school for the school taxing?
Excuse me. The school system here in Alachua County, we could lose up to $17 million over the next 5 years, and all this does is it's going to take your tax burden and relieve it for a little while, but then somehow the school system, the county, the city is going to have to make up the difference of what we've lost through levying local taxes, and it's basically being shoved from the state to the county. And then as much as, I've always had a beef with people who complain constantly about how much money they're not getting from the state, because my thing is, whatever you're getting, you need to make do with and do the very best you can. But we have to in some way come up and advocate for our kids, because this is going to, you've heard us talk about programs lately and having to address the needs of the underperforming kids, and this is just going to impact that greatly.
Now, when you talk about could lose $17 million over 5 years, that's if this passes, that's a pretty good definitive number?
Yeah, that's just here in Alachua County.
All right, now, if you break that down, we're talking about a little over $3 million a year. What's the overall budget for the school board every year?
I think it's about 275, no, it's more than that. I'm not quite sure. It's in the $375 million.
So it's over $300 million a year is the budget?
Yeah.
And so you lose $3 million, what's that, 1%?
Yeah, but what it does is it also is going to affect our ability to go for these the certificates of participation for the new schools that we're talking about. As this money is taken away, then it does impact our ability to go for these kinds of financial things. And so, we've talked about opening 3 new elementary schools. That could be impacted through this if this passes.
Dan Boyd said it costs like $60 million to open up a high school.
It's $100 million.
It's $100 million?
He said, what now you're seeing is about $100 million, and the reason the $60 million number came up is because if we built a high school, it would be at Diamond Sports Park, and they already have some of the infrastructure for the sports in place, and so that would save us a great deal of money.
Okay, so, and all I'm trying to do is try to get a figure on the numbers, because when you say the schools are going to lose $17 million, I think everybody goes, well, we don't want that to happen. We want education to be as good or if not better than it currently is. But then when you break it down and you look at the overall budget, if somebody's asking you, hey, Tina, you're going to have to cut 1% from the family budget, that's just the way it is. We got to cut back. Gas went up, and to meet our bills and to stay on budget, we're all going to have to cut back just a little bit, 1%. I mean, is it really going to be that critical?
Yes, and it's because we're already behind. Our per pupil spending in the state of Florida is $1,500 less than the average.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Why is that? That's just because what the state will give us?
Exactly.
Why can't
and it's because of our funding formula here in the state of Florida and how we do that. And you have to understand that the school board we do not have any local control, or very little, over what our budget is, because the state tells us how much we need to earn locally in order to qualify for the money from the state. So they basically dictate to us what our budget is and how we get that money. And so we're already behind. Our per pupil spending is behind by $1,500, and our teacher salary is $6,500 less than the national average. Our average in Florida is $6,500 less.
So you've been able to get by with less. The teachers make less. You've been able to maintain what's considered a very good education in most cases.
Right. We're an A school district. We're an A school district.
And so because of that, in essence, the state is kind of penalizing you for that.
Sure.
In other words, if all the kids were testing poorly and stuff like that, and you couldn't hold on to teachers, then maybe the state would step in and help you out. But because you've gotten by, you're being penalized as a result. See, that's government working backwards.
Well,
and that's the state issue.
And if you saw where the governor came out last week and said we're going to we're holding education harmless. We're going to.
Yeah, is he going to add $1 billion?
What he's done is they've taken money from categoricals, money that says we can spend it for transportation and for one other thing, and has said that it has to go in. It's going into the FEFP, which is the funding formula. So he's moving money around to make it look like he's putting more money into education.
We're getting to some issues here, folks. We've got the Pinkesons with us. We've got Tina Pinkeson with us and Lee Pinkeson, and we're going to talk further about Amendment 1 coming up on the Bob Rose Show, News Talk 97.3 The Sky.